Stranded in a frozen tundra, confined to a castle full of cryptic puzzles, deadly traps, and something else that's watching your every move. The only way to survive is to rely on your brains, your wits, and your buddy on the other side. The We Were Here series, consisting of We Were Here 2, We Were Here Together, and We Were Here Forever by Total Mayhem Games, is a series of co-op escape room-esque first-person puzzle adventure games, where you and a friend have to work together in order to escape with your lives. While still getting its footing and probably not expecting to grow to the extent that it would, We Were Here sets the stage for the series with what could best be described as a nice PowerPoint presentation. A pair of explorers find themselves trapped in a castle by an unknown assailant, only to find themselves waking up alone with nothing more than a walkie-talkie. What happened? Where am I? I swear, if this is some kind of YouTube prank video, I am gonna...
Hello! I want to play a game.
Can you repeat that?
I said, is anyone there? I need help in order to beat these games so I can get the hell out of here.
Oh, okay. Who are you again?
Why, I'm your main boy Kigurumi, a fellow YouTuber and VTuber, which technically I guess is the same thing when you break it. Never mind. I beat games and make beats, and guess what? You're stuck here with me, because in the We Are Here series, co-op is mandatory.
It's true. Plus, what you immediately need to know going into these games is that both players need to be running a copy of the game, as there is no split screen, since as we'll soon see, that would kinda defeat the point.
Awesome. Glad you're on board, but in order to keep things fair, how about we cover the first 2 games on your channel, and then we'll finish the other 2 on mine.
Sure, sounds fair. Plus, that kinda makes sense. While the series maintains the same cooperative puzzle-solving gameplay from start to finish, there is a major shift between the second and third game that dramatically changes the overall feel of these titles.
The visuals, sound, and even the story gets a major overhaul in the second set of games. So much so that if you didn't know any better, you might think that this one series is just copying the other. We Are Here Together and Forever are what you get when an indie dev finds success, financial success, and combines it with passion and experience.
Yeah, where on the other hand, the first 2 games just scream indie. While still having a creative style to them, I'm getting gritty fairy tale vibes myself. Though the earlier titles lack the polish, flair, and theatrics that the later titles lean heavily into.
Plus, they noticeably recycle assets throughout and in between both games.
Yeah, indie title, we're not really gonna hold that against them all too much. 3D is time consuming and expensive to make. Though it is worth pointing out, mostly since in the earlier titles, most of the puzzles come off as just that. Puzzles to solve in order to escape, with the overarching narrative usually being more prominent in the design late game, compared to the later titles where the puzzles are more woven directly into the narrative, pushing it forward.
Being escape room style games, the goal here is pretty simple. Both players need to work together to solve puzzles in order to escape the castle. But the catch is each player only gets about half the puzzle, so they need to communicate what they are seeing in order to solve it.
And obviously that's where the walkie-talkies come in, with only one player being able to speak at a time, which in this case was mostly just Kigu yelling at me. A lot.
It's not my fault that you don't know left from right.
Of course I do. Anyway, we find ourselves progressing through different areas of the castle, each one closed off from the next and the previous.
And these rooms and set pieces are punctuated by a soundtrack that ranges from melancholic to just downright creepy, serving more to emphasize what's going on instead of just being a bop. It's very much a background music.
As you enter each area, you're going to want to explore your surroundings and figure out what you can interact with and what you can't, what stands out, and what feels like something is missing.
And communicate! Oh, seriously, communication is key. And the best way to express this is through an example. And while individual elements of each puzzle can change via multiple playthroughs, like different lock combinations or picture layouts, The setup remains generally the same every time, so in order to try to avoid spoilers, we're going to be talking about as few puzzles as possible.
The first puzzle that really gave me and Kigu some trouble was the second one in the first game, where Kigu essentially had to guide me through a maze to the exit. However, we didn't know that's what we had to do. It wasn't until I had explored the maze, messed with a few things, and eventually found a compass rose that we put it all together. And even then, that wasn't all there was to it.
Things like deciphering symbols, matching photos, and setting up stage plays is only the tip of the iceberg. And as the game advances and the series progresses, the puzzles get more and more interesting and evolve from simple do this then that puzzles to real brain twisters. But early games are certainly more straightforward.
Which leads us to the replayability and what the first games do differently than the later titles. We're talking roles.
Unlike the later titles where both players start up at the same point and divide and conquer to win the day, in the first two games, whenever you start up a new game, you get to choose which role you want to take, which is kind of a fancy way of saying which side of the puzzle do you want to tackle.
But still, it also means that whatever path you take, you're stuck on. Unless of course you exit and reverse the roles, but that's not really in the spirit of the game. It also means that should you want to replay the game again, you can do so from a different perspective, which is certainly interesting. Finally being able to see what your partner saw and piecing together how they reached their conclusions for each puzzle.
Or couldn't figure out for the life of him, requiring his teammate to literally figure out the entire puzzle himself through repeated trial and error. But that's just a hypothetical, of course.
Oh boy, thankfully though, you have unlimited time to tackle each puzzle, letting you play the game at your own pace.
Most of the time. They do light a fire under your ass occasionally, setting up a few moments where you can actually die.
Kigu? Kigu? Kigu?
But the game saves at each room, so you don't really lose all that much progress.
Oh, my head hurts.
First time? Ignore him. It's no big deal, especially once you figured it out.
That's assuming you're trying to squeeze as much out of these two titles as possible, as they're pretty short, averaging about an hour and 2 hours respectively. Unless you're just an idiot who doesn't have anyone to carry them. Then it just might take longer. Realistically, you're better off just running through all the games in succession, assuming you like this kind of game. Which, considering the first title is free on Steam,
Got a selection of good things on sale, stranger.
it's worth checking out. But where things get really interesting is where the series evolves into We Are Here Together and Forever. And speaking of evolving, so how you feeling, buddy?
Am I dead? Also, why are we on a stage?
Nah, man, you're a VTuber now.
The hell does exist?
Of course, and if by hell you mean my channel, then yeah. So I need you to grab an ice pick, 300 eggplants, some sock and boppers, you know that old thing back in the 90s, and meet me in Washington.
Washington? Like, are you talking about DC or the... Hold on, Kigu, what do you need 300 eggplants for? And where do I even get sock and boppers? This is the 90s. Kigu, come back! Kigu! Ah, here goes. Hey everyone, before you head on over there, real quick, I just wanted to let you all know that Kigu and I stream co-op games, new and old, including games you see reviewed here, like Digimon World 3 and 4, Gunstar Heroes, and of course, the We Were Here series. So if you're interested in a sneak peek at future reviews, have game suggestions, or just want to be a part of the conversation about the games that you love, come hang out with us in the virtual world. Links in the description. I hope I see you all there.
Oi, hurry up! You're not gonna sacrifice yourself just standing there. Come on, let's go!
Alright, come. Hey, wait a minute, what?